I decided to give unsolicited advice from a 20-year-old Gen Z who is a mom at 25. Today's topic is about community. We hate community as Gen Z. I'm gonna just be real about that. We do not like the concept of community. And I'd like to add, as a whole, the concept of real community bothers us. If anything, at large, for most of us, at least speaking for myself, independence is praised. Getting it all on your own is praised, especially coming from minority communities. In my early 20s, I figured that a life full of accomplishment or worth living was to accept Christ, and that's still true. But to accept Christ and then to go and start a multi-millionaire entrepreneurship venture and start from the ground up, document the whole thing, and then go viral overnight. Just because I had the skill, just because I had the talent, right? That was my life until I got married. Having children really showed me you actually really can't do anything by yourself. As I started returning back to my creative dreams, because I'm never gonna let those die, I saw how the reason why they failed in my early 20s was because, well, one, I didn't rely on any kind of community. I didn't ask around for the things that I need, whether it was equipment or different kinds of resources or different kinds of networking. I didn't put myself out there for fear of dealing with people, for fear of being hurt by people, for fear of being uncomfortable or discovering something I don't like about a person, for fear of discovering a flaw in somebody and just deciding I do not want to be associated with that person, or nitpicking at things that I find toxic or ways that I think this person might be problematic. Like, just judgmental is really what I was. But it was all to protect myself from being hurt in very dramatic ways, to protect myself from being hurt in a way of betrayal. And if I'm being quite honest, such is life. That is actually life. When you love someone and you say that you love someone, you're putting yourself at risk to be hurt. Because love is not selfish. Love is patient. Like when God says love is patient, he means that sometimes even when people are acting a certain way that might be unsavory to you, but it's not detrimental to your health, your well-being, your friendship, just something that an annoying trait, a habit somebody might have. Sometimes patience looks like praying for them, and when you're with them, just sitting and listening, sitting and choosing to love that person. Because if I'm being quite honest, everybody needs each other. We are so quick to say, I don't need you, I don't need anybody. And to be quite honest, for a little bit, that works, for just a little time. But when things really hit the fan and you actually need help for real, like a skill that you don't have but somebody else has, who are you gonna call? Now, I want to point something out here. Community is not so we can use each other and then drop each other off. That's not what community is for. Community used to be, are you okay, baby? In a very different time in the world, community was understood as something that it was seen as our only solution to survival. I've got to depend on you and you have to depend on me. But it's not out of a place of desperation, like we've been kind of taught. In a way, I feel like the self-help and the therapy movement is what I'm going to call it. I think that, number one, 100% beneficial, especially for minority groups who otherwise would have not been exposed to that concept. It's been great for that very reason. I still recommend therapy. However, I'll say that some of the ideologies in it, however, have taken have taken precedence over what it means to actually be in community and be in relationship and how to actually love someone. We kind of ran to cutting people, toxic people off, which, again, I still find that important when it's necessary, but only when it's necessary. Not because you feel like it, not because, you just decide to be done with somebody because they do one thing against you, or they mess up one time, or they were having a bad week, or they're going through something in their life. That's actually never a good reason to cold turkey cut somebody off just because something is happening in their life and they are acting out of it. That's where grace comes in. That's where our patience comes in. And I find it funny because most of us would not want nobody to do that to us. So you're just gonna cut me off just because, like, I had one bad day. And in today's society, that's considered warranted. But if we look at it from a realistic, let's be real right now, because I was Miss Independent, could nobody tell me nothing? You couldn't, and I didn't want your help. I was raised by women who had no men. I have seen a Black woman succeed on her own and raise multiple children by herself. However, God had a very different story for me. I do want to acknowledge that every community has not done its job for a lot of us growing up. A lot of us have been taken advantage of inappropriately and sexually from very young ages. And so that's a very understandable reason as to why, I wouldn't trust nobody with me and I wouldn't trust nobody with my kids. Completely understandable. I'm not just like throw your whole guard down. I just want to clarify that because a lot of us are speaking from that place of pain, like an excruciating unforgiveness. We're speaking from that place. We're allowed to be mad. We're allowed to be angry. However, life does go on and we have to move forward. If you stay in that place, you're never going to get anywhere. You will stay mad and angry. And you can't live out of that because it only leads to death. Physically, when you have stress and unforgiveness, your body literally starts to get sick. That's scientifically proven, but we can also find that in the Bible. And so, moving forward, we can't allow the things that happen to us be the end. We can't choose how things begin for us, but we can definitely change how it ends. And so if that looks like you vetting people, hey, listen, this is what I've been through, and so I have a hard time trusting, but I do need the help. Being vulnerable, being honest with the people that you meet, being real with them, and they will understand. A lot more people are understanding, far more understanding than we imagine. Now, in our early 20s, I can't say that that's always true. But once you reach past a certain point in your 20s, around your mid-20s, we begin to see how important it is to rely on each other, to barter. I saw a wonderful video on Facebook about a lady talking about how our generation in particular really don't like community. And she was saying, like, part of it is you don't ask anybody to borrow anything. Sometimes that's how it starts. And something me and my husband took great advantage of is like, hey, do you have a cast iron skillet? Hey, do you have a diffuser I could use? Like, just calling different people that we know for things. And another thing, that doesn't mean that we're best friends. I know that's a shocker, but that doesn't mean I have to go and kiss up and fake relationship with you just because I needed to borrow something from you and I'm trying to find a way to thank you. Like, that's not what community is either. It's not kissing up. It's not being fake. It's realistically saying, hey, I needed this thing. I may not talk to you for a couple of months just because of life, but it's all good in the hood and we're all still cordial. We're all still friends. There are some people in your community where you might not interact with them every day, but that doesn't mean they're much less your community. That means they are still someone you can always rely, or that's still someone you can always go to if needed, and they should be able to do the same for you. I'll leave on this point. Everything you expect from somebody else in a setting of community, make sure you're willing to be the same person to them. Well, that's my big sister rant. I have a nice bowl of chicken adobo to eat and my homemade bread, which I do not have a recipe for because this is my first successful bread. Amen. Okay. Well, I hope you enjoyed this unsolicited advice. Have a good day.